we always like to take spring and talk about where the potential chaos scenarios could be. You know, how established, in other words, are the favorites in this conference or that conference? How many tiers are there? So let's take a look at the conferences across college football. What are the chaos scenarios, and what is the potential for chaos? And I wanted to start in the Big Ten because over at FanDuel, it's really obvious if you look at the preseason odds. There are 4 teams with plus 600 or better odds to win the conference. It's a very, very clear Tier 1. And then there's pretty clear delineation with USC and Iowa being 5 and 6. And then there's another big drop-off, and it's the rest of the conference. So what would chaos be? Well, I mean, Oregon winning the thing wouldn't be chaos. They're the second favorite in the conference right now, even though I think a lot of people may be surprised. Like, I think the casual fan would be surprised if Oregon or like a Penn State were to win the Big Ten. But you shouldn't be because they've got the second and fourth best odds, respectively, in the conference to start the season. Iowa and USC are sitting down there 5th and 6th, actually 6th and 5th. I think that would surprise some people, and in the process of them winning the Big Ten, that would be chaos. But I think Nebraska and Wisconsin, either of those teams making a run, and I would guess Wisconsin's more likely out of that group to make a run, that would be the chaos scenario. Wisconsin plays Bama early in the year in out-of-conference action. If they were to win that game, that'd be a wake-up call to the Big Ten. It wouldn't matter in Big Ten play, but it would be a wake-up call. Wisconsin's over-under right now, 6.5. And if they were to win that game, obviously the live market odds would shoot way up from 6.5, but also then you'd start asking yourself, well, if they can beat Bama, like what's the insurmountable hurdle they have out here? So right now, I'm going to put it on a 3 on the 1 to 10 chaos potential scale, but I'm monitoring. I'm monitoring the Big Ten. Now in the SEC, on the other hand, the SEC's got chaos potential written all over it. So at FanDuel, there are 7 SEC teams with plus 1,500 or better odds to win the conference. And it's Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, LSU, Bama, Tennessee, and then Missouri. And then it's not a big drop-off to Texas A&M, honestly. So then there's a big drop-off after that. And how about this? How about of those 7 teams I just read, we're not even including Oklahoma. They're down there at like 9th. Auburn's at 10th. So there are legit brands that have done things in the past and probably will do something at some point again. Those could be the chaos agents. I would say if Georgia gets bitten early, that would be sort of like the game on moment. Because we're not talking about making the playoff now. We're just talking about in-conference play. I think Missouri could be a chaos agent. Missouri's over-under win total is 9.5. Like, Colin, can you throw those odds back up for me for just a second, by the way? I think if you pictured in your mind, hey, like, where does Missouri stack up? You would say, oh, they're always like bottom tier. They're always third tier maybe. Well, it's Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, LSU, Bama, Tennessee. Missouri's that 7th team. Like, Missouri's got very comparable odds to Tennessee. They've got better odds than A&M and Oklahoma and Auburn. Yet, I don't think the general college football public, even after an 11-win season last year, thinks of Missouri as being in that air. And traditionally, if a team that you don't think is in that kind of rarefied air has a big 11-win season, you think of them as falling back to the pack the next year, like what TCU just did last year. I don't think that's going to happen with Missouri. Missouri's going to be very competitive this year. And I think they probably have the best chance of being the chaos agent, but also this is the most competitive Tier 2 group of teams out of any of these conferences we're talking about. And that's why it's not quite an any given Saturday. I do not think if I played 10 games, Vanderbilt would beat Georgia any of those 10 times. But outside of that very bottom rung, this is going to be an ultra-competitive conference this upcoming year, which is a recipe for chaos. So I'm putting an 8 on the chaos scale there. And not too far from that is the ACC. And I think I got to go with the 7 on the ACC spring chaos potential scale. I've called the scale 4 different things so far tonight. Can you tell that we did not name the segment? We did not. Our buddies at FanDuel have 4 teams in the ACC at plus 500 or better. The odds right now, keep in mind it is Thursday night, March 14th. Clemson and Florida State have the exact same odds to win the ACC. Miami's 3rd, Louisville's 4th. Fairly big drop-off to NC State. What would the chaos be in this conference? Strangely, if Miami won the ACC, people would think it was a shocker. And you shouldn't. According to the odds market, you shouldn't. But I think that would be shocking to some people. The more casual crowd that doesn't stay tuned in or gets themselves married to this ideology that someone can't do something just because they haven't, yeah, they'd be shocked by Miami. So that would be quote unquote chaos, but not really. But NC State winning the thing would be a little more chaotic. Dave Doran has been the model of consistency. We're going to talk about him a little later in the show. You know, he's entering his 12th year at NC State, and dude just wins 9 games every year, but hasn't gotten over that hump. And so if they won it, that would be surprising. But Virginia Tech, SMU, that would be probably the group of teams that if they made the move, that would be the chaos agent cluster, the CAC, for lack of a better term. There's a chance. Here would be the chaos scenario. Maybe there are just no elite teams. Maybe there are no Tier 1 teams in the ACC this year. If that's the case, then it's game on, because then everyone can beat everyone within reason. So I think, yeah, I expect some chaos in the ACC. Now, the Big 12, this is the easiest one in the whole bunch. It's a 10. In the Big 12, chaos is going to happen. It will be the chaos conference. 10 teams in the Big 12 have plus 1,900 or better odds. It's basically FanDuel's version of saying, you think you know this conference? Have at it. Here are the odds. Like Utah's favored, but Kansas State's right there with them. And then you got 3 more teams with plus 850 or better odds. How is this not going to be chaotic? Where's the elite roster? In the SEC, you could circle a team like Georgia and say, hey, if they have their act together, that's going to be pretty cut and dry. You could do the same thing with Ohio State or a Michigan in the Big 10. Hey, if they've got their act together, or in Oregon, it's going to be pretty cut and dry. This conference right here, there is no top 10 recruiter perennially. Jesse, is there even a top 20 recruiter perennially? I don't think there is right there. So it's just a developmental conference. So there's no large roster gap, really good coaching up and down the conference, and Kyle Whittingham is coming into the conference. So I don't know how. How in the world would we ever have a year in the Big 12, given the nature in the post-OU Texas era, where someone just kind of glides through to the finish line? That will not happen. So the Big 12, I mean, I don't know what kind of prop bet I would need, but I would bet an unhealthy sum of money that will be the chaos conference this year.